Commissioner of DEP, as we talk about those individuals that are imposing things on cities like Camden that we're not appreciative of. But as a mayor of the great city of Camden, we have amazing folks that are committed to the city of Camden, our governor and the state staff that's here with us. So I just wanted to say welcome, thank you, and Frank, good to see you. We were just together earlier. It's definitely a great thing when we could literally come collectively and address all the concerns of our community as we have done and we continue to do so. Thank you and welcome, Attorney General. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before I start, I just want to thank the mayor for hosting us here in Camden. I want to thank Camden Lutheran Housing and their director, Betsy Clifford, for having us. I am pleased to announce today that my office has filed 8 environmental actions across the state. These are wide-ranging actions. They involve companies who owe millions in natural resource damages and environmental cleanup costs. They involve companies who released hazardous pollution into city centers for years and thought they got away with it. They even involve a company that allowed illegal dumping on its property in the dead of night. These actions involve urban centers like Newark, Trenton, and Camden, and they involve rural parts of the state like Warren County. But here's what unites all 8 actions. Today's 8 cases are going to advance environmental justice in New Jersey. Environmental justice, or EJ for short, is a very simple idea, that everyone, no matter their race, ethnicity, color, national origin, or income, deserves to live and work in a healthy and clean environment, and that everyone deserves to be involved in setting the state's environmental policies. Because too often, the same communities across our state have suffered the worst environmental problems, and they don't get the support and the attention that they deserve and need. Now, EJ may sound simple, but it's critically important. Environmental justice matters for public health. When the same communities are exposed to the worst pollution, they end up facing greater health risks, and that's fundamentally unfair. No one's health or well-being should suffer simply because of their race, origin, or socioeconomic background. That seems obvious, but this country and this state have not lived up to that promise. DEP's own Environmental Justice Advisory Council found that minority and low-income communities in New Jersey face unhealthy and unusually high pollution, and that's simply unacceptable. So today, in New Jersey, we are taking a major step in changing all of that. And here's what we're doing. First, we're filing the 8 lawsuits in communities across the state. And let me give you one example of the lawsuit we filed. The Puchak Wellfield Superfund site sits about 5 miles away from here. And for years, those wells served drinking water to Camden's residents. But a nearby industrial facility discharged chromium-6 into the water. Chromium-6, which has been linked to cancer and respiratory illnesses, the very chemical that Erin Brockovich spent years fighting. In fact, that facility discharged routinely 9,000 gallons of wastewater daily. Let me repeat that, 9,000 gallons of wastewater daily. The well field was shut down decades ago, and Camden residents had to be given a new water supply. But the cleanup is still ongoing today, and the responsible parties never paid us for the damage that they caused. So we're filing a natural resource damages claim, an NRD claim for short. And just 4 months ago, I announced that New Jersey was back in business for NRDs. And this is just a perfect example of what we will be doing in the future. This is a natural resource case that speaks to environmental justice, to hold polluters accountable for the damage that they did to a site that had been providing drinking water to Camden. And we have 7 other cases too. We're bringing 2 cases in Newark where companies contaminated soil and groundwater with hazardous materials, substances that are bad for human health, and we're seeking court orders to force them to clean up those properties. We're suing a company in Trenton that has allowed illegal dumping of solid waste on its property, a property right in the middle of the city and just a 5-minute walk from a park. We're going after a company in Palmyra for destroying wetlands along the Pennsauken River. And we're suing more companies here in Camden and further up in Flemington and all the way up in Warren County. Because I am committed to protecting our environment everywhere in this state. And I'm committed to engaging in efforts with the community as part of these environmental actions. Which brings me to the second part of today's announcement. At 2 p.m. today, Commissioner McCabe and I will be hosting a listening session right here on environmental justice. Community groups, environmental groups, and members of the public have all been invited to attend, to come speak with us about the work that they do, the environmental challenges that they face, and how we can help. EJ means empowering local communities, empowering them to protect their environment and their health. So we'll work with them hand in hand, because today is just the start of our environmental justice initiative. And that's the third part of today's efforts, our commitment to the future. We've always had an environmental enforcement section at the Attorney General's office, but we're restructuring it today to become an environmental enforcement and environmental justice section. That's not just empty words or symbolism. We're hiring new attorneys to bring these cases and to promote environmental justice across our state. And we're conducting, as we speak, a nationwide search for 2 new leaders in that section. One of their official job duties, which we put right there in the job description, will be to bring cases that promote environmental justice in this state, something that we've never before required in New Jersey. Because today's actions have to be the beginning, not the end of this work. I'm proud of the environmental work that the Attorney General's office has done, bringing back NRD cases to hold polluters accountable. We brought those cases, the first time in 10 years such cases had been brought in New Jersey. And we've been challenging Washington as well when it rolls back our important environmental protections. But today is really special. I want to run a different kind of enforcement program, one that asks how enforcement can also promote justice. So let me be clear, no matter where you live and no matter your background, you deserve to have a healthy environment. And to the polluters who have run amok in this state, here's my message to each of you: not on our watch. We're going to pursue you just like we're bringing these 8 cases today. Before I end, I'd like to thank the team that made today's efforts possible. Thank you to Michelle Miller, our incredible director of our Division of Law, to Assistant Attorneys General Kevin Jesperson, David Appy, Section Chief Gary Wolf, who's here, Assistant Section Chiefs John Dickinson, George Schlosser, and to Rick Engel and Paul Stofa, who all put in countless hours overseeing this process, and to Lauren Brick, Dan Harrison, Mark Heinzelman, Lou Karagias, Robert Kinney, Robert Lamilla, Candace McLaughlin, Lisa Morelli, Beth Prue, Diana Shin, and Kevin Terhune, who did tremendous work on today's enforcement actions. And last but not least, to an incredible partner in these efforts, Commissioner McCabe and the DEP team for their tireless efforts on all of these cases and on today's listening session. We are thrilled to work with you, Commissioner, and now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Commissioner McCabe. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us here today. I want to thank Attorney General Grewal and his team, his good large team, as you just heard, for making New Jersey's natural resources and environmental justice a top priority in this administration. And I also want to thank Camden Lutheran Housing for hosting us today, not only for this press conference, but for the listening session that we'll be doing afterwards. Now, we all have lived in New Jersey for a while, so we know that New Jersey naturally has an abundance of natural resources, beautiful resources. We have the beautiful Delaware River that flows right near us here. We have many other streams and harbors. We have abundant forests. We have agricultural land and wetlands, which are very key to protecting our communities in times of climate change. We have such a beautiful river and wetlands here in Camden, but for so long it has been very difficult for the community to enjoy that natural resource, which is the community's natural heritage and natural right to enjoy. So the DEP is committed and has been committed for a while to working really hard with the communities here to clean up that environment. It is not an easy job after the many years of industrial activity that have occurred here and in many other places throughout the state of New Jersey. But when neighborhoods or communities become polluted by the activities of some people, usually for profit, we must step up. We must step up not only to work together to clean up those places, but to make sure that the people responsible for them pay for the cost of cleaning them up. Now, and for too long, the public has been paying the bill of many of these situations that the Attorney General was just describing, of contaminated sites and destroyed wetlands. These are things that we all are paying to clean up and to restore, but that shouldn't happen. So the cases that we are bringing today include both cases to compel responsible parties to do more cleanup, but also a measure of what we call cost recovery to reimburse the public for the funds that we all as citizens have spent on this work so that we can replenish our funds so we can do more work going forward in the future to help you. Now, we all know that it is way too often, here in Camden in particular and in the state of New Jersey generally, that communities of color and low income are exposed to a disproportionate amount of the pollution that affects us. So it's not just the pollution of the rivers, it's also the pollution of the land. You see a fair amount of illegal dumping that I know the community here in Camden is often subject to. There's also more air pollution that tends to fall disproportionately on communities that are vulnerable in places like Newark, where you have sections of highway going right adjacent to neighborhoods and pinning them into triangles. You have the same situation here in Camden with highways as well. So we start from the premise of recognizing that this community is overburdened. The community for too long has carried an unfair share of the pollution that rains down on us from the skies and in the case of Camden in particular, bubbles up to us from the floodwaters that are experienced too often here. So we wanted to not only continue the work that we have been doing with all of you through the cooperative work of the Camden Collaborative Initiative, which has been a partnership with many of you who are here, that has included the DEP and the federal EPA as well. That is strong. It's been very successful in achieving a lot of great results, and we are fully committed to continuing that work. At the same time, we are very thrilled to have in Attorney General Grewal a partner who will help us with the important part of making sure that those who cause the pollution are held accountable so that those who are thinking about causing pollution will know that they will be held accountable, to discourage more of the illegal activities that we have seen in the past from happening in our future, and to clean up and make sure that the right people, the responsible parties, pay for cleaning up that pollution for the benefit of all of the communities. For all of this work, we need the community's input. We need to hear from the community about where the problems are, what the problems are, which are the worst problems, because there are so many that we cannot solve all of these at the same time. We have to be strategic and smart and cooperative, work together to target the problems that matter to the community most first. And that is true whether it's a small problem or it's a large problem. I know there are many small areas of dumping that might not, illegal dumping that might not seem like the biggest problem when you look at them on the statewide scale, but when you look at them on the community scale, this may be the thing the community cares most about. We have in the past worked together with EPA and the Camden Police to work on training to do something about the problem of illegal dumping in Camden, and we'll continue working on that. But even more importantly, when we do find the responsible parties, now that we have the backing of the Attorney General and the force of all of his staff behind us, we know that we'll be able to move and do something about this. So we really want to help. We are really thrilled to partner with the Attorney General's office to do this. But most importantly, we want to hear from all of you as to how we can best help. And that's what this afternoon's listening session is about. So I really appreciate all of you joining us here, and I look forward to the listening session where we hear from more members of the community. Thank you.
So we're happy to take some questions about today's enforcement actions, and then after that, if we have time for some off-topic questions as well. Yes, sir. So each of the lawsuits is a little bit different. The one with the well field, on the Puchek well field, that's a natural resource damages claim, something that this state had not done in decades until we brought the first set of them about 4 months ago. There we're looking to recover the costs of our efforts to remediate the site, as well as costs for the damage incurred to the natural resources or caused to the natural resources. Some of the others are pure cost recovery. I don't have a total of them because the litigation is just commencing today, and a lot of that will come out through expert testimony throughout the course of that litigation, but suffice to say it's in the millions.
In terms of the actions that you have filed, what, 4 or 5 months ago?
4 months ago, yep.
You started it. I'm just trying to refresh my mind here. I think it was 5 lawsuits?
6.
6? And where do those stand?
They're in litigation. We filed our complaints, and obviously in civil litigation, things move at the pace that the courts move at and the parties move at. And so they're still ongoing, and they're at various stages in each of those cases. These cases are going to take time, and they take years at best and maybe 5 or 6 years at most, and sometimes even longer. But our message today is that we're all in on these cases for as long as it takes to hold folks accountable for the damages done, but more importantly, to send a strong deterrent message to others who may contemplate engaging in such conduct, that we will bring these cases and that we will hold you accountable.
The financial penalties that these companies could pay, do those go to the state or do those go directly to municipalities? I mean, can communities expect to see any of that money and stuff?
So the lawsuits are being brought by the state. The recovery will be to the state, and because of the recent constitutional amendment, it's our hope that that will be used in that cleanup fund to clean up sites and to restore the environment in New Jersey. And by extension, it will come back to these communities because that's where we want to make the most difference with that money. Yep. Because we're not just seeking recovery of monies associated with the cost of the cleanup, we're seeking monies also for the damage caused to the community and to the state for the loss of those particular natural resources. Whether it's the water, the sediment, what have you, it's different. It's not just restoring how much we've spent, it's getting money to restore the environment, perhaps in another part of the state to protect the environment, but it's quantifying the damage to that particular resource that's been harmed.
What do you think the mayor is expecting to react to the fact that you've got this anatherm station in the city, you've got the well field right outside of town? How important is it to you that these actions are being taken to help the city of Camden?
Well, sure, and thank you for the question. Look, Camden City was an amazing industrial city, and we know that the way things operated 50, 60, 70 years ago really are causing serious impact today. I'm just thankful that the state has stepped up to the plate to say that we're going to go after these individuals that historically have gotten away with illegal dumping or pouring out contaminated water in certain sites. Just because we're a city of minorities and a small inner urban city doesn't give you a reason to dump on us. And the AG and the Commissioner of DEP coming together under this leadership just spells that anyone that's contemplating on doing it, it's not going to happen, and we're going to go after the ones that have contaminated our waters.
Attorney General, you're hiring for 2 positions for the new environmental justice section. Is that in addition to new lawyers, or are those 2?
No, both. Both. We're rebuilding a lot of our practice groups, which are at historically low numbers as compared to even 10, 12 years ago, particularly because this was not a focus over the last administration's time here. And so we're rebuilding from the line level all the way up. and we're looking for specific leadership at the top to bring in folks who have experience in environmental justice. We have remarkable attorneys in-house, and many of them are here. All of these cases are being handled by them internally, but they need help because we are doing incredible work, and we're doing a lot of it, and they're working tirelessly each and every day on the new demands we put on them, as well as keeping up with their existing caseloads. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I'm having a tough time.
If our orders didn't help, why would the lawsuit help against Pensacola?
Well, I mean, when you have a lawsuit, you're bringing somebody to answer before a judge, you know, and it's our hope that when we have the pressure of the court bearing down on polluters and the deadlines imposed by a court, that will bring people to the table to either settle these matters or, if necessary, to litigate them.
Follow up on that, I mean, looking at the month-long here in town to cover costs, removal of storage tanks over the years. I mean, if they say, you know, you don't have $400,000, you shut down their business?
So our goal in bringing these cases, as you could appreciate, we have a lot of potential sites across the state where we could bring cases, unfortunately, for historical pollution. We make an assessment at the outset of a case if recovery is viable, and we've done that in these matters, and we're bringing them because we think they're viable cases, both from our legal theories to hold polluters accountable, but also from a recovery perspective. Anything else on the lawsuits?
How many other sites, if there are other sites across New Jersey, do you have any idea about?
I'll just simply say we're busy. We're back in the game. We're going to bring additional NRD cases in the new year. So for bigger polluters and bigger sites, as well as the other types of cases, the cost recovery cases where we've already expended the money to clean up sites and we're seeking to recover it. So you'll see a mix of both types of cases. As to the specific number, I don't have that with me, but as I've said before, we're back in this game.
Is it safe to say that
Right here, he hasn't had a chance. Yeah.
does your office or the DEP have any sick from the or generally, rough estimates of cost that was associated?
Yeah, so I think all of that are pieces of information that we will present in court as that litigation proceeds. Certainly, the chromium-6 contributes to respiratory illnesses and cancer. It's the same chemical that is famously known for what Aaron Brockovich was investigating. It's a powerful pollutant, and it's something that does cause damage, and we will make all that plain as the litigation proceeds. Right now, we've just filed our complaints, and as we go through the discovery process, we'll put all that related information forward. Are we ready? Any last questions on the environment? All right, off topic? Go ahead.
Well, just to follow up on what I was
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Yeah, sorry.
Can you at least make an estimate? Would it be safe to say that there are dozens or maybe a couple hundred cases that you're looking at?
I don't have that.
Feel comfortable?
I don't feel comfortable giving you that estimate, but stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then off topic.
Okay.
This week, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals in Philadelphia issued a ruling that backs the state's move to limit the number of bullets in those magazines. I'm not sure of the exact number. or
Right.
anything like that, but I'm wondering if I get your reaction to that and whether you feel this is a battle that the gun industry is going to take on even further, maybe going down to the street.
So I can't predict what they're going to do. The litigation is still ongoing. We did win in the Third Circuit this week. This is just a continual process that we're going through every time the governor and the legislature put forward sensible gun safety laws. We've been challenged on them. This was one concerning large capacity magazines in the wake of mass shootings across the country for public safety and for law enforcement safety. The legislature and the governor put forward a bill that limited the size of large capacity magazines from 15 rounds to 10 rounds. It was challenged in the district court in New Jersey. They lost. The district court said it was a sensible law, that it was constitutional. They went up to the Third Circuit, and the Third Circuit agreed with the district court and said this is a legitimate way to protect public safety and law enforcement safety in New Jersey. It does not violate the Constitution. You could have these types of sensible gun safety measures without violating the Second Amendment. And the Third Circuit was consistent with about 5 other circuits that came to the same conclusion. So I don't know what their next steps are, and you know we'll be ready for if they decide to take us up. We'll brief it up, and I want to thank Jeremy Feigenbaum, my counsel, who argued that case brilliantly in the Third Circuit, and he'll be ready to go wherever that case takes us. If that's in Washington, we'll send him down there. Yes, sir.
Have you been interviewed by Justice Raniero or his team yet?
So, with respect to the ongoing investigations, so you know, I don't think it's appropriate, just as a general matter, to comment in any way on ongoing investigations with respect to Justice Raniero or the legislature. The only thing I will comment on, because it seems to be unclear to many with respect to what our office looked into and concluded, we did not conclude anything about the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office's ultimate decision in the underlying sexual assault investigation, which is being run out by the Middlesex County Prosecutor's Office. They will decide where that case goes. The only thing that we concluded, because there were allegations of a potential conflict of interest, is we concluded that Prosecutor Suarez had no involvement in that case, and we based that on our Office of Public Integrity and Accountability's investigation, and that's the only thing that I'll comment on. Thank you.
So the county prosecutor there recently said that he would pursue the death penalty or he in a certain case. Do you think it's appropriate for a county prosecutor to advocate for the death penalty and advocate for the legislation?
You're talking about the Canero case? Oh, so I have not seen the statement. Was that made today?
It was made a few days ago.
So